Alright, I figured I would start out over here. I've got the two pieces that's going to make up this hendey belt guard. The piece that side is just left straight, and the piece that's this side, I was able to massage a little bit of a curve into the outer edge here. I don't know how well it'll actually show up on the video, but with this being 5/16 thick steel, trying to convince it to move is not exactly a simple feat. I'll probably spend a little bit more time trying to work with it, but right in this area here, I need to hammer it outwards a little bit more, because there's a little bit of a dip right there, and you know, there's some other unevenness through this, but just being able to get even a little bit of a curvature to it is just tickles me to death. So hopefully on the next reasonably comfortable day, I will get these two pieces tacked together and then start spending some more time, grinding and fitting these edges, because everything that's on this end of the machine has just massive gaps, and right now the piece that I've made is fitting pretty snug, so I've got a lot of wiggle room. So, I mean, oh, and I've got to get my bolt holes drilled in it, there and there. I've got an idea how I'm going to get those situated. I think I'm going to probably put some witness marks on the outside of the machine. Take the guards, the new guard pieces out. Basically, put a straight edge up there and mark witness marks on the casting, and then put these back up and realign my straight edge and basically put the corner right where the hole needs to be, and then mark it out here and drill it. So we'll see how that should work out fine for the amount of tolerances that I need on this. I'll try and get an actual video of that, because I'm sure it probably doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to anybody. But anyways, that's turned out really well. But temperatures got a little bit warmer the last couple days, and I got sidetracked with these two John Deeres. So the other thing is, wound up out at Century again, and there was somebody had discarded parts of what I believe to be a late model John Deere 110. So I couldn't justify leaving these things out there to get crushed. So I scrounged up this fender pan. It wasn't terribly expensive in scrap metal. And the only other major component that was out there was its engine, a little 8 horsepower Kohler. So it has its own unique things. So I scrounged up its little, I don't know if you'd call it a brush guard, debris guard, whatever it is. I scrounged it up because it was still in halfway decent shape. I needed this piece for my 8 horsepower Cub Cadet, so I decided to grab it while I was there. And even better yet, it still had its PTO clutch on it. So, and it looked like it was barely used. So it's reversed from what my 200 series pulleys or PTO drives are. So it looks like it should be usable. I just have to take the entire clutch assembly off my 200 series and put on the entire version of this. So not too worried about that. That'll be a nice addition considering the fact that one of my PTOs are just about smoked. And it had the bracketry that goes around the PTO to support the engagement of the PTO, and the mule drive arm. So I grabbed that, and they had the mower deck out there also. Now granted, it was a 38-inch or 36-inch mower deck, so these pulleys are different than what I need, but the main casting is the same unit, so of course I certainly couldn't let those go to waste. They need bearings replaced and whatnot, but just having the casting alone is a big plus. One other thing is, this was mentioned as possibly a knife sharpener. So after doing a little bit of research online, what I come to find out is this is for, I believe it's a Hobart meat slicer. This is to sharpen the blade on the meat slicers. I don't recall what model it was, but I thought that kind of interesting, seeing how this was set up. And, since somebody had mentioned, knife sharpener, it got me thinking, well, maybe some sort of rotary blade, and sure enough, that's what it was for. So, there was a couple of other things I stumbled onto when I was out at Century that of course, I couldn't pass up. I've been wanting another vise for outside on my exterior workbench. So this was out there, and it had some flaws, still has some flaws, but the main slide, it looks like it has been bent pretty badly at one point, so I had to clean up the main slide a little bit, and the screw was a little bit bent, so I had to unbend it, and it still wasn't threading in very well, so I wound up just taking some valve grinding compound and freeing up it the rest of the way like that. So now pretty much I just have to reassemble it and get it back on its swivel base and bolt it to my bench. But obviously I've got a little bit more cleaning up to do yet. I had a huge mess in here from working with the John Deere 300 over the last couple days, and I got that pretty well tidied up. Got it figured out what I'm going to do with the generator, and this little Tonka truck just happened to be out there, so of course I had to bring it home. It needs to be in my garage. I could feel it. It needed to come home with me. So now that these guys are running and driving, this one and that 212 out there, they both have a host of other problems that need attention, but at the very least they can move under their own power in and out of the garage as needed. So I can either take them over for storage, or I can bring them into the garage and work on them when I get a little bit of extra time. But this one runs pretty darn well. One of the biggest issues with it right now is, I don't know if it'll show up, but the slop on the carburetor, there it is. The slop on the carburetor throttle shaft is quite atrocious. So I've got a 214 John Deere sitting over in the corner, not being used. The carburetors might possibly be interchangeable between the 14 and 16 horsepower motors. So I'll look and see if they have the same throttle bore, and I'll probably swap out carburetors to manage that little problem. But this one was a pile, and so was the other one. So having this thing even this far along is a huge benefit, huge success at this point. And this one was the one that was blowing smoke from one of the head bolts. So after tightening up that head, or over tightening that head bolt just a fuzz, that seemed to, at least for the time being, solve that little problem. It's been so long since this thing has ran, I had forgotten that the engine actually smokes a little bit. So that's the only other issue, or only other serious issue it's got. But the governor needs some major adjustment. It tends to lope pretty badly, but I mean, other than the cosmetic stuff, I think it's pretty well good to go. But yeah, definitely a ugly son of a gun, but that's okay. So we'll see. We'll get into more of these over the next, several weeks probably, here and there as time permits. But this was the last of the warm days, so maybe in the next few days I'll start getting back into welding related projects, and hopefully I will get that Simplicity running on its own again. I put a new coil on it, and it fired up for a while and then went kapooey again, so I'm guessing it needs points or a condenser or something at this point. But at any rate, I thought I would kind of give you guys a little bit of an update on those last few projects that have been kind of the biggies for me. So hopefully I'll catch up with you guys again in a few days.